Greetings from the Blue Ridge Parkway just above Asheville, North Carolina. Now, you would look at this picture and think we got here with the 2023 Hyundai Palisade, and that would not be entirely true. You see, we came to Asheville to drive this, but how we got here was to fly to Charlotte and got an IONIQ 5, all-wheel drive, and drove it from Charlotte all the way to Asheville. And the purpose is not so much can it go 128 miles, which was the distance from where I was staying in Charlotte to where I was going in Asheville. Rather, the purpose of this exercise of getting the IONIQ 5 in Charlotte and driving it to Asheville was to understand the charge network in North Carolina. So first, a bit of a backstory. I picked the car up at Charlotte Douglas Airport with 258 miles of range, drove it around with a couple of friends over the weekend, and took 60 to 70 miles of range off the vehicle. Then I figured I needed to charge it again. However, where I was staying, my buddy's house, he doesn't have a level 2 charger. He's got an RV in his backyard that he plugs in with a regular 110 outlet, level 1. So I had to go out and find a level 2 charger. I used the ChargePoint network and I found a free charger, believe it or not. It said it was 6.6 kilowatts. So I was kind of excited. That combined with the 800 volt architecture, maybe I can get what, 20, maybe even 25, 30 miles in 1 hour of sitting at the Gaston County Public Library. That's basically where I went. And when I plugged in, it wasn't 6.6 kilowatts, it was 3.3 kilowatts. So only got about 10 miles of range, brought it back to my buddy's house, and basically stayed there overnight until I left the next morning, and I got it all the way up to 229 miles of range. So picked up about 20 miles by having it sit there for over 12 hours. So here's what you and I are going to do today. We're gonna hop in the IONIQ 5 and drive it from Belmont, North Carolina, which is where I was staying over the weekend, and we're gonna drive it into downtown Asheville. Not exactly a range test, but we're gonna see what happens when we get to Asheville and see if we can charge it and how fast we can charge it. About to enter into a massive rainstorm here in North Carolina. About the halfway mark at this point. Oh yeah, the sky is definitely about to open. Gone about 60 miles from my original start point, which was Belmont, North Carolina. You may remember that oh look at this Prius is cutting me off. He's just jealous that he's not full EV and he's slowing me down here. Just so you know, as I am shooting here, I am using the level 2 autonomy. So the vehicle is using basically a very fancy cruise control system to put distance between me and the car in front of me, which is this slow-moving Prius at this point. You can see it working here and showing me what's going on in terms of the traffic around me. It even picks up the cars that are coming up on the side of me. So I've got this SUV passing me right now, and the system picked it up with the sensor. We're just outside of Hickory, and the current range is 168 miles. What I've been doing is keeping it at about 65 miles an hour. There have been times that I've been playing around with up to 70 and then bringing it down to 65 for no other reason than seeing the impact on the range of the vehicle. So in spending a lot of time with EVs in California, I found that keep it at about 65, your range, it lasts a little bit longer. You can't see much because of this rain, but we're going to start elevation changes. We're going to go a little bit higher into the mountains here in North Carolina. That's going to impact our range. We've got 66 miles to go, 166 miles of range, using a lot of level 2 autonomy, and we're behind a Prius. At the McDowell County rest area, which is above I-40. And as you can see, it has stopped raining and the elevation has indeed changed, which has had an impact in 2 areas. The temperature is down about 5 degrees, but more noticeably, the humidity is down, which has made it much more pleasant here. It's still summer in the south. With that, I wanted to stop and go over the car specifically, not so much the propulsion system. And yes, I am one of those road trip Nazis that we are on a mission, we do not stop, You have to stop and go to the bathroom before we get in the car. So don't complain when we're in the car because we've got a time to make. But here, I wanted to stop and smell the rose. The first rose I wanted to smell was the seat. Point out something that's interesting. Remember in the tech review, I showed you this lounge seat where it has this footrest or leg rest, and you can pick up the front of the seat more than you normally could with a regular electric seat option. They do that for charging. When you go to a charge area and you're sitting there for 45 minutes or an hour like I was yesterday, you can lay the seat back. It's not the full flat business class experience in an airplane, but I noticed there's something interesting about it. Notice where the extension of this leg rest is. That's the highest point. And I believe the reason why they do that, it perfectly situates your feet right in front of the pedals, not on the pedals, so you can engage with a level 2 autonomy. Repeat after me, this is not a self-driving car. It's a very fancy cruise control system, which I have to say this is one of the best systems out there. One of the worst is the Jaguar Land Rover. And here, you're enabled to access the pedals even in the lounge position. That's something I didn't see when I first drove the car or really tested it out in that studio. Another thing I am just seeing for the first time, notice the pedals. They borrow that trick from the Volkswagen ID4 where they put the plus on the gas or the electric and they put the minus on the brake. Although here, a little feedback to the folks at Hyundai, do what Volkswagen does here, where really play it up. So let's make that like aluminum with a large black cross and a large black negative sign here and make it a little bit more interesting so passengers see it too when they first get in the car. Here, I've driven this car, 5 times, and the first time I'm seeing this. Which brings us to the main part of the show here, 131 miles of range. So I have about 35 miles to go. So yes, I'm losing some efficiency as I'm going up in elevation, which remember, we went 60 miles and it only showed 40 miles of burned range. Now I'm starting to burn more range because of the elevation changes, and we are at 53% of battery life left. Welcome to Asheville. We have rolled in with 91 miles of range remaining on the all-wheel drive IONIQ 5. If you remember, we started out in Charlotte, actually Belmont, North Carolina, which is on the west side of Charlotte. Started with 229 miles of range, made it to the freeway, the I-85 at that point, with 211 miles of range. So went about 128 miles in total, at least according to Siri. And we're down, let's see, we lost about 10 miles of range in the elevation change up into the mountains here in Asheville. But as I was driving to Asheville, I called the hotel and asked them, hey, you guys have an EV charger in your valet? Most, fancy hotels do. They don't. Actually, they do, but it's only a Tesla charger. And the guy was kind of like the character from The Simpsons when I told him I was driving not a Tesla. He's like, heh. Anyway, I pull up and right like 0.2 of a mile from my hotel, I see this wonderful charging array with solar, and I see there is a DC fast charger, thinking this is going to solve my problems, but boom, not working. So I figured, okay, I gotta find something else. Then I go to get back in the car, and as I'm getting in the car, I say, wait a minute, there's not one but 2 charge point chargers here. I'm like, I'm all set. This car on its keychain has a charge point account. So I figured I am set. Let this thing sit here for like 5 hours while I go find a cigar lounge, do some work, and my car is fully charged for the trip back to Charlotte. Well, guess what's not working? This charger and this charger. So I guess I'm gonna have to come up with plan C to charge this bad daddy to get it back to Charlotte. So this is the reality of EV life, at least not in California. Yeah, there's more you and I can talk about with grids and infrastructure, which we'll continue to talk about in other episodes, but wanted to share this with you. This fun little experience to go drive the Hyundai Palisade 2023, which does not have any of these troubles. So I'll see you in the next episode. Bis später.